Today I'm gonna bake a simple country sourdough loaf. I'm gonna use water, I have a little salt, I have my sourdough starter here, and my flour selection. I have two different kinds of bread flours, whole wheat flour, and one part I'm gonna meal now, so it's a freshly milled flour. So let's start with the freshly milled part. I already measured out here 10 grams of rye grains and 30 grams of spelt berries. That's a total of 40 grams, which is 10% of my total weight of the flour. So let's meal it now. Okay, I'm gonna dump it in here. The next flour I'm gonna add is another 10% of whole wheat flour, so which means 40 grams. A little bit more. Okay. And now I'm gonna add my bread flours. The first one, my base flour is Pansyokunin. This is from Marubishi. I think it's well known for all the home bakers here in Malaysia. So I'm gonna add 60%, which is 240 grams. Okay. And the next one gonna be super mélange. This one has a higher protein content, so I prefer to use this when I'm using freshly milled flour to compensate a little bit and give a strength to the dough. I give a quick mix. And I'm gonna add my water now. So total 400 grams of flour, and I'm gonna add 305 grams of water. Get a little more. Okay. And I'm gonna mix it with hand. So this is called autolyse. I'm gonna let it sit for half an hour at least. Usually I let it sit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes at least. If you have time, you can do for an hour, 1.5 hours. The thing, this one makes your flour hydrate evenly. There won't be any part or particle which remains without water. Okay, at this stage you can see it's pretty sticky, but later I'm going to show you after an hour it already nicely come together. It will have a nice elasticity, extensibility, and it won't really stick to your hand anymore. All right? That's it. Okay, now back to our dough. It's been sitting in the table for an hour. It's autolysing for an hour, and as you can see, it's already, it doesn't stick to my hand. It's come together nicely. nice and soft, but not too soft. So I'm gonna add my starter now. Just to double check, I'm measuring it, but I already measured here 80 grams. It should be 80. Just okay, a little bit less, exactly 80. Okay, so I'm gonna just use my hand and nicely incorporate. I start with massaging into the dough on top. I'm just using 3 hands and 3 fingers and my thumb. I try to be gentle and not tear the dough, not try to keep all the gluten strands in shape. I'm still using 3 or 4 fingers maximum, and I'm just pulling the dough towards myself. If you feel your dough is still not shiny, not come together on the top, you can just lift it up and do some folds like that. And then continue. I'm not gonna knead it too long, just until it's evenly, the starter is evenly mixed and spread out. Okay. That's it. Look, it's less sticky now than it was before. So I'm gonna let it sit for another half an hour, and I'm gonna add the salt later. So after half an hour, I'm gonna add my salt. Nine grams of salt. And to incorporate this into the dough, I'm gonna use like just wet hands. So it won't stick to my hand too much. I'm pushing the grains into the dough. Then try to remove the dough from the sides of the container. And with the same technique, I'm just massaging in. I don't break, and I don't want to break the gluten strands. Just massage, massage. I feel that the dough can take more hydration. I just don't want to add too much. Just a few drops. Yes, that's it. So just make sure you keep the dough together nice and shiny. You don't cut it or pinch it too hard. I turn it, try to massage the bottom part. and I'm gonna leave it here because at this point I can't start folding the dough. It's pretty stiff now, so we have to leave it for another half an hour to relax. I'll make it into a bowl and transfer it to a clean container. Okay. So I'm not gonna do any more kneading on this dough later. I'm gonna just do folds. I will show later. Okay, so after adding my salt, I waited half an hour and I'm gonna do my first actual fold. I just wet my hands and take the dough out, and I'm gonna do a bench fold and stretch the dough out as much as I can without tearing. So I'm gonna just stretch and fold it back. This gives the dough a nice strength. That's it. You can see it's already holding its shape. And now I let it rest for another half an hour. And then I'm going to show you how to do a coil fold. I tried to do the folds in the first 2 hours in the bark fermentation, because after 2 hours the fermentation is so active that I'm gonna actually puff all the little air pockets out. I'm gonna flatten the dough. So I recommend to do as early as possible, do all the folds and give some strength to the dough. And then you can actually leave the dough without touching it. If you've done a good job, you just don't have to touch in the final few hours of the bark fermentation. So let's just sit for half an hour and I will come back do a coil fold. Okay, now my dough is, as you can see, pretty bubbly. So the wild yeasts are working. I'm gonna wet my hand and just do my first coil fold. I usually use 2 fingers. Try to put it under the dough and pull it. Pull one more time and get the dough from the side, from the wall of the container. And I do it in the opposite direction as well. That's it. And I turn it 90 degrees and do one more time. Okay. I'm going to place it in the middle and leave it for another half an hour. So now dough has proved enough. I just did my 4th coil fold and let it rest. The total bark time was 5 hours, 5 hours 15 minutes. And now I'm gonna show you how to shape. So I just put some flour on top and I'm gonna flip the dough here. Just make sure it doesn't stick to the wall. And it should come out nicely. As you can see, the alveoli or the little air pockets, it's beautiful. It feels very spongy and light. Just stretch it a little bit, not too much. Fold it one side, opposite side, and now I'm going to roll it up. I'm just using my thumb and my the rest of my fingers, shape it, and that's it. It's time to transfer it to the proofing basket. And here you can do, there's a lot of options. I usually just do the pinching method. I'm gonna seal with a strong pinch. If you find some air bubbles here, you can pinch them. You can pop all these. Otherwise, it will burn in the oven pretty fast. Okay, that's it. Add some flour and then put it in the fridge for overnight. Okay, as my dough is ready, it's been in the fridge for overnight, around 12 hours. So it's nice and puffy. I'm gonna flip it here, do a quick score, and straight put it in the oven. I'm just using a razor blade with a coffee stirrer, very easy, simple solution. I let it run for maybe a minute, and then I turn it off, the whole oven. Okay, now our bread is ready. Let's have a look. Smells good. Look at that ear. We have a nice oven spring. We have an ear, nice blisters here. Bon appétit.